Madam President, we're now on about the third day, I think, of a somewhat tortured process that was the result of a power grab that has changed the tradition of the United States Senate, a tradition which is held for about 225 years. Republicans are frustrated with the attempts, successful, made by the Democrat Party under its leader to change the rules, break the rules, to change the rules. And so we end up with no rule relative to protecting the rights of the minority. Now, I know it's easy for those who have been elected in recent years and have never served in the minority, because they simply don't have the experience of what it's like to be subject to a leader and a party which basically says, we don't care what you think, we don't care what you say, we don't care what you do, none of it will be allowed unless we give you consent to do it. And I know that a lot of my friends across the aisle have said, well, it's your party that's holding things up. And it's you are making the Senate a dysfunctional institution. What they haven't done is ask, why are you doing this? First of all, I don't believe we're the ones making it dysfunctional, but even if you think that, the question has not been asked, why are you doing this? And we're doing this because we have 3 years of pent-up frustration or more under the leadership of our majority leader, who has essentially turned this into the House of Representatives. So people say, well, what's wrong with that? But majority vote rules, I mean, just about on everything else we do. Why shouldn't majority vote rule here? Well, the Senate was not set up that way. It's famously known the Senate is set up to be a place where tempers can be cooled, the passion can be cooled, something can be debated and worked on, and if major legislation is passed that affects significantly this country, that legislation is passed in a bipartisan fashion following significant debate, and we've always had a provision which basically says those in the minority will have their right to participate, have their right to offer amendments, to participate in the debate. We have been shut down from offering amendments, and there's been growing frustration on our side, basically saying, this is not how the Senate has worked traditionally. This is not how it's worked historically. This is not how it has worked according to the Founding Fathers' determination of protecting the Senate, giving it extra long terms, giving members the opportunity to use the agreed-upon rules to achieve the right of someone in the minority to speak up. Now, the Democrats are going to rue the day when they made this move and jammed it down our throats and said, if you don't like it, tough. Because at some point, the pendulum will swing. And I think maybe sooner than a lot of people think. 2014 looks like a turnaround year. And if it is, they're suddenly going to find themselves in the minority. And we'll see, and they will learn, what it's like to be denied the opportunity to be elected to the United States Senate and be a member of this august body, be one of 100 people that are chosen to represent their states and represent the United States of America, and be shut down from having any opportunity whatsoever to have a voice in what goes forward here, to offer your thoughts, your amendment, to represent your state. But to be told by the majority leader, I'll decide whether or not you can have an amendment. And by the way, I'll use procedures to make sure you can't have your amendment. Now, I've had the privilege of serving here on 2 different occasions. I came here in early 1989 and served 10 years in this Senate. I don't recognize this Senate today. I came back in 2010, 12 years later. I don't recognize this. This is not the Senate that I joined in 1989. It was under Democrat control. George Mitchell was the majority leader. The Democrats had the majority. They controlled it. I had served 10 years in the House of Representatives, along with my colleague from Kansas, Senator Roberts, who's, I'm sure, who's here listening to me speak, and I appreciate that, Pat. We've gone through this same experience. But when I served before, under Democrat leadership, I realized what the difference was between this upper chamber and the lower chamber. Under the genius of our founding fathers, the lower chamber, elected every 2 years to represent the immediate concerns of the people of their state or their district. And the Senate, given the opportunity to step back and take a broader look and work to fashion bipartisan support so that something major that impacted the American people and impacted our constituents was settled and debated and worked out and ground through the process, and gave us an opportunity to say, wait just a minute, do we want to rush to judgment here, or do we want to just step back and look at the larger picture? And so as a minority member of the Republican Party in 1989 and following, all the way up to 1995, I enjoyed and revered the opportunities that I had. And my former members of the House would ask me, so what's the difference between serving in the House and serving in the Senate? And I said, in the House, the majority party rules. And you're lucky if you can get the Rules Committee over there to allow you to have an amendment on a particular bill. Every once in a while it would happen and say, wow, this is special. But in the United States Senate, every minority member, I said, could offer any amendment to any bill at any time. And that is a great privilege that has been afforded to us. But what a necessary privilege, because without it, you get stuff rammed down your throat, it doesn't have bipartisan support, you're denied the opportunity to participate, to amend, to adjust, to be a part of fashioning something that can be accepted by the American people with support from both sides. And so this boiling up frustration has been happening here increasingly under the leadership of this majority leader, who simply says, I'm going to turn this into the House. I'm going to change this institution from 225 years of what it once was to something entirely different. And forget it, you guys on the other side, you in the minority. You don't have the rights that you once used to have. I respected Majority Leader George Mitchell. Tough, ran this place like clockwork. We were in late at nights a number of times, but every member of the minority had the opportunity and the right to offer an amendment, the right to participate, the right to be heard, and the right to offer an amendment to a provision. George Mitchell, as leader, recognized those rights. And he would say, guys, ladies, you can offer any amendment you want. We will take it up. We will have a vote on it. You may win, you may lose, but you have that right. So the reason why we're frustrated here, the reason why we're using some procedures now, which denying all of us a lot of sleep that we'd like to have, and at Christmas season, we'd like to go out and shop for some gifts for our families. We'd like to make some plans for the Christmas season, and we're stuck here. The reason for this is it boiled over. The last insult was simply basically saying, forget it. Forget the rules forget the procedures, and forget the courtesy. Forget the privilege. Forget the right that you've enjoyed for all these years in the Senate. And we're going to turn this into a different place, and you just take it or leave it. So we're kind of left with very few resources. and able to express how we feel about this. Now, I think there's a solution, an easy solution to our problem. And that is, it starts with number one, an understanding of the frustration each side has. But it has to include the understanding of why they're frustrated. And it's not just the Democrats that are frustrated with Republicans trying to use techniques that will allow us at least to have a say in how things are working here, but also frustration among Republicans in basically saying, bill after bill, time after time, we have amendments that we would like to offer that represent the wishes of the people of our states that we represent, our constituents. And I'm being denied that opportunity by the majority leader.